Listen, laugh, and learn.
You have to drill that target audience.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Until they are consuming your product, not because they love it, but because they can't escape.
We're all business.
Drill, baby, no more pussyfooting around.
Except when we're not.
Oh, I can't get enough of the poor Sarah Palin. I just absolutely love her. Hey, Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host John Nash. We're all business except when we're not. We are the Focus Group. Be sure to catch us here every Saturday with new shows, and we have specials that come out once in a while on Wednesdays. So if you go to focusgroupradio.com, you'll be able to find all the platforms where we are available, or of course on our social media, which is all branded Focus Group Radio, particularly Facebook. We post the audio, and now we also post the visual, or what we call our YouTube channel, which is Focus Group Radio. So you could watch us as well. So when we used to say listen, laugh, and learn, it's now listen, laugh, learn, and watch, we hope.
Listen, watch, laugh, and
Listen,
learn.
watch.
I'm
It's now
puzzling
watch.
over that sequence.
Yeah, so you're going to have to, if you do have a question for us or you'd like to give us a response, be sure to call us. We have a phone number. It's 914-362-8747 or 914-FOCUS-GR. And there's an answering message there, and you can leave us a message or give us show ideas or leave us comments. We always like to hear from everybody. If you have a suggestion and we use it on the show, you'll get a pair of our famous Focus Group Radio socks, which I understand are in production, John.
Yay, which means we could start encouraging people to sign up.
To sign up again.
To get socks, and I think we're going to do a little maybe... We don't really email blast people. We don't really...
But in the meantime, if you want to subscribe, like, or rate us on your platform of choice, again, if you go to focusgroupradio.com, we're pretty much everywhere, including now on Apple TV on the Reverie app. Mm-hmm. So worldwide. So now we have to be careful what we say because people in North Korea could watch us. I guess they could have anyway, right, on YouTube?
No,
you can't get through there?
Their internets are so censored, and I'm sure that there's I'm sure they only see state-approved content.
Well, so the Reverie app is LGBT programming, right? Yeah. So I wonder if that is...
I'm sure that
I wonder if in Saudi Arabia or some of the other countries where being gay is still a crime, if you could get the app, I wonder.
That's a really interesting point. I don't know if they could restrict that.
I don't know. They restrict Google, don't they?
China does.
Yeah. China,
I tell you. Well, that's an interesting... We should ask Damien about that, the CEO of Reverie. We had him on before.
So we have a guest list show today, which... actually, John and I like to do because we think the tempo or the pace for us is a little not as frantic. So,
or like my neighbor Jerry.
What does he say?
He loves I love the show. It rollicks along, and then you have a guest and it dies.
Well, it depends.
And I don't know how to answer that when somebody says.
You have to say who he is, though, because anyone in the New York, Connecticut, tri-state area, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey will know him.
Yeah, he's the actor who made Crazy Eddie famous.
Our prices are insane. Remember, that's what he used to do.
And he, but Jerry,
Crazy Eddie, that was a stereo.
Yeah, TV. It was a kind of like a stereo camera, like all that electronic warehouse kind of thing. But he also did talk radio as well. He did. Okay. He's a really good interviewer. Great, by the way. I actually want to start a segment called Jerry Recommends, because he's a voracious reader and he loves detective and mystery novels, and he nails them. He knows a good book when he sees it.
Would he come on?
I think he'd love to, and I think we should have him on sometime because he's also got a great ear and a great eye. So he critiques the shows, comes up with ideas.
Well, he told me to lose the specs, which without the specs I can't see. I tried doing Senator Byrd's thing, which you did, where you did the types about 24 point.
Hard.
But I would need a ream of paper to get through my notes.
When Chuck Todd took over Meet the Press, the first couple shows he did, I don't know if you noticed this or not, he had readers that were meant to rest down here.
Pins, Naz? Or no?
Well, they had the stems.
Oh, they had the stems. Okay.
But he would look at his notes, and when he looked at a guest, he would look directly at them, and then suddenly they vanished because
they said that's condescending, right?
When
you look over.
People, even though they're designed to look over, people didn't like it. So he probably went to contacts.
I prefer not to have them. I don't think contacts would help me. I don't know.
Not with some of the short.
Now, my neighbor just got his eyes. He had cataracts, Rich. And he had wore glasses and contacts forever, but now he's got perfect eyesight. He just needs a reader now. They went in and did some corrective thing. So I thought with us with age you
He
can't.
was a photographer?
Yeah, the blind photographer. I thought. But I thought.
All right, everybody,
Bump.
click. Make your clicking. He hands out clickers for like a group photo. They all click, and then he turns and takes a picture.
But I didn't know you could. Could you correct old age?
Not presbyopia.
What?
Presbyopia is
Methodist.
the official. Yeah, I'm presbyopian.
Presbyopian.
Presbyopia
Gay
is the
Presbyterian.
official name for what happens as we age. The eyeball starts to get a little hard, and the muscle can't. It's not as pliable, so it doesn't focus as easily. So that's what causes you to have the loss in distance stuff.
Well, what happened to you? Because back on our old platform when we were on Sirius, you used to have readers.
I'm trying not to wear them. I went out to lunch with a friend of mine, and I said I can just about read this menu. He goes, "Well, work at it, read it, try it." He goes, "Don't put the glasses on." I'm like, "Why?" He said, "I started wearing readers for work." He goes, "Done." I mean, he looks at spreadsheets and order forms and stuff, so he has a lot of reading to do during the day. But with
Does Bob wear readers?
now he does, even though he had the LASIK done. So LASIK corrected a lot of the problems that would have made for wearing eyeglasses all the time. But it doesn't. I asked my doctor. I said, "Hey, can I get this little idiotic reader thing fixed? I only need it for small type. You know, like." I can't even. I should find something that's really, really small or low lighting. And the brighter the light, like we're in this environment, you could probably read all this stuff with.
I can't read this at all.
Really?
Nope. I blame it on Viagra. I think I have a lawsuit.
You have a class action suit.
Know what that
then.
is?
Well, if you.
Somebody else told me they agreed with me about
Greg
that.
did.
By the way,
Didn't Greg?
Greg
Yep.
agree? Because I
remember Greg when Greg's eyes went. He used to do when I was business partners with him. He said it was it was fast. It was 4 or 5
fast.
months, and he was boom. He was down to like prescription level readers, and that's it. Yeah, every time now, whenever I see Greg, he has 2 different pairs of glasses.
Believe me.
The one, yeah.
I think it's the Viagra. That I'm just going to go out and say that now because I've always. My parents still don't use readers. They're in their 70s. Good eyes, little TV set, looking at it. Good hearing, too.
Well, my eye doctor did say if you're not getting headaches, try as best you can and then put the readers on. So.
What you gonna do? What caught your eye this week, Mr. Nash?
This is actually a story that's been told. This has been going on for a while because the incident happened months ago, but the judgment just happened a few weeks ago. So. A Canadian comic was fined 42,000 American dollars, 39,000 Canadian, I think, or did I screw that up, for telling a joke. Now, Canada, because Canada has something called the Human Rights Tribunal. Now, a lot of people have talked about this.
You're a small country, you can do those things.
And apparently, if you're offended by this, you can put this into the Human Rights Tribunal. Well, the joke concerned a young boy named Jeremy Gabriel, who's 19-year-old, a Canadian singer who suffers from a syndrome called Treacher-Collins syndrome. It's a debilitating disease. He actually sang for the Pope. Now, before we continue, I think John managed to grab this off the internet. All right, that's Mike Ward. That's the comedian that made the joke. He's standing in front of a billboard for his stand-up show. But here's the young kid that he made the joke about. Let's see if it works.
Kid saying.
Moi, je dis et j'affirme haut et fort qu'il a brisé une grosse partie de ma vie, il a brisé ma confiance en moi, il a brisé ma carrière.
Okay, so it breaks my little heart that this poor young man has a life-ending, debilitating disease. But I see a clip like that, and I'm like, how could you not smile? At least smile. That this is,
It's like he swallowed one of those toys.
I think he sang for the Pope. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but while he was talking before he sang, that Celine Dion song from Titanic was playing in the background. Anytime those
That'll make anyone laugh.
Yeah, anytime those Canadians get a chance to put her in.
Celine Dion.
Celine Dion. So the joke he made was basically this. So Mike Ward says he was supposed to die. Isn't he dead yet? And then Gabriel Ward suggests that Gabriel stole a wish and is now, in fact, unkillable. Remember the Make-A-Wish Foundation, The whole bit? So up in arms, Gabriel and his family contact the Human Rights Tribunal. They levy this fine. And Mike Ward's appealing it, and Gabriel's very disappointed in that. And he says, in this case, freedom of expression is a false debate. Gabrielle told CTV News, when you use discriminatory motives that incite hatred, you can't talk about freedom of expression. Now, I read 3 different articles about this. I don't know where the hatred comes from. He made a joke at this kid's expense.
Lisa Lampanelli doesn't go to Canada.
Well, the fascinating thing about this was this has led to a whole big thing. Remember Jerry Seinfeld said, oh, God, maybe it was like 5,
Well, he won't
6,
go to colleges anymore.
So there's a documentary coming out now about what's happened to college humor.
Yeah.
You know, it's so PC that administrators will shut down, and they forget the constitutional right of free speech.
Right.
And we learn this in school. You'll be offended. You're going to get offended. People are going to say things about you that are, but so if we were in Canada,
Do you think in the U.S. that would have any, or the Supreme Court would just throw it out?
I think they would throw it out because I think the First Amendment is very clear.
And that kid's also in the public domain.
It would be the minute you start performing and you sing for the Pope and the whole bit. So
you squeak for the Pope.
If we're in Canada and Trump, you squeak for the. It sounded like that duck thing over there. If we were all in Canada with Trump and I said, hey, I can't vote for an orange creamsicle for president, right? And Trump gets offended, and I'm going to be fined. You know what I mean? I don't.
Go to the Human Rights Tribunal.
It's a slippery slope, and in Ward's and a lot of people side with the comedian, and they say it's a very critical thing to remember that we have a First Amendment. And they actually don't. They don't have a freedom of speech in Canada. I mean, they have all these other things, but
Canada's going down a slippery slope.
With this one?
With a lot of things, I think. And 3 of my grandparents are Canadian. I have Canadian heritage, as everybody knows. But I could sense that they are going to have some troubles because you start going down these slippery slopes and you get in all kinds of problems.
Oh, and by the way, yeah. And the documentary I referenced before about the college campus problem with comedians, it's called Can We Take a Joke? And you could probably find it on YouTube or Vimeo, but I don't know. I thought that, we grew up in an era of Don Rickles, for God's sakes. Don Rickles was an equal opportunity offender. There was no one he didn't make a sarcastic comment about, right?
Yep.
But we all knew he was doing it to get a laugh, and he wasn't necessarily saying, I hate you, or I'm trying to hurt you, or something. So there you go. What caught your eye?
Well, so last month the Olympics finished up. And this came across, and I don't know why I read it, because normally not something I would read. But the headline was, tampons never really caught on in China. Will that ever change?
This is news to you? Okay.
When an Olympian talked about swimming with her period. So it
Chinese Olympian.
Yeah, it lit up social media. And there was all this discussion about the different cultural norms of whether, how you talk about menstruation or women's time of the month. And this swimmer, Fu Yanhui, happened to have her period during the Olympics, during the competition. And she actually had talked about it on social media, which became a bit of an uproar in China because you're not even allowed to advertise sanitary products in China because it's deemed vulgar. And so they don't use tampons. They say that they've tried to use tampons, or they've tried to sell them. A number of different companies have tried to sell them in China. And the market, as big as many people as there are, it's only $3.6 million, or 0.03% of the market in China is for sanitary protection. So you can imagine how small that is when you think about it.
With billions of people,
right,
and half of them at least women, I'm kind of shocked.
So
I knew the story of her making a good statement about how she can win a competition and swim while
right. So the whole point was period, So she could have her period, and the tampons would, if you put a tampon in, it's not going to leak. And she said that she thought it was great to raise awareness that if you put the tampon inside, you can move around freely. And so a couple of brands are now trying to capitalize on this again. June Boo, who's an independent marketing consultant, formerly with J&J, who helped launch tampons in China in '93, recalls that she said when it was still affordable to run on TV, that it was such a struggle that they ended up pulling out of the market. She said there's still a taboo about it, and the Chinese believe that it impacts your virginity if you put something in there. Still a very serious belief for women who are not married yet that you can't insert anything like a tampon. Okay. They also said women had a hard time putting them in. So the dropout rate was very, very high. So, of course, in typical Chinese fashion...
the dropout rate, I'm thinking kids drop out of school, and I thought, no, the dropout.
The drop-off rate. I'm going to try, can't fit it in, too tight.
That literally meant dropping out. Okay.
So she says they're going to have to gradually change minds. So there's a bunch of entrepreneurs that have jumped on the bandwagon here.
To sell tampons.
Tampons in China. So if you're looking for something that we haven't missed yet, here's an opportunity for us.
Let's invest.
So they talk about the benefit of the lifestyle. They talk about how you don't stop living. You can not stop living now if you have your period. And the one big thing they've noticed, there's one company that's launching the first China-made tampon. So they think if it's made in China, it will sell. And they're going to try it online first. And this is what I love. So Tampax is the brand from the U.S. From
what do they call it?
One character off is the Japanese brand. So Tampax in English, the translation is Dan Bi Shuang, and the Chinese name will be Dan Bi Si. So it's only one character to typical Chinese, right?
Why reinvent the wheel?
You have the Potenza tire.
Just add an extra spoke to it.
You have the Polenza tire. So, and they also said now that a lot of people are traveling, a lot of students are in the U.S., they have more exposure to Western ways, and they think that's going to eventually change the mindset of tampons. So
this goes a lot deeper than that Olympic story I knew about, but I didn't know any of that. That's news to me. That's a good caught your eye.
So you and I are always looking for a moneymaker. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you'd want to get in the sanitary napkin biz.
We could have a edgy part of our life where we could say we're in the sanitation business, and then people might think we're mob related or something. But then we parse and sort it, and we go down a layer and say, no, we're providing sanitary napkins to women in China.
Well, it was a business story.
It is. It's a business story, all right. Yeah.
So today's September 10th. This is something I think you actually very, very much liked. In 1953, C.A. Swanson and Sons introduced a new product called TV dinners.
We were not. Oh, that's the classic one. And where's the little dessert up the upper left-hand corner, the little apple crumble? We were not allowed these too often.
So the Smithsonian Institute inducted the original Swanson TV dinner tray into the Museum of American History in 1986. I never thought they got the. You can never heat them correctly. Either burnt the potatoes. Yeah. And you'd have to scrape around the foil edge, or the treat, the apple crisp thing would either get burnt or get almost hard. But we didn't have them a lot either. But it was always a big deal if you had one.
We were allowed on certain like
a snowy Saturday.
I don't know. When we were growing up, the Wizard of Oz was a once-a-year television event, and that was one of the nights we were allowed TV dinner. Because we were so glued to the TV, we didn't want to miss a second of the Wizard of Oz, and my mom would set up a little tray, and then okay, Steve, the kids could have TV dinner, and we'd get to pick them. We'd go to the store, and we get to pick which one. Pop? We were allowed to do Jiffy Pop. That was usually for Rudolph. Yeah, but it was also a yearly event. Yes. You couldn't pop a tape in.
That's what was so great about it. Then and the kids sat and you watched it, and it wasn't like you could watch it 100 times.
No,
you saw it once
through. Yeah,
that's what we loved about them. 1794, America's first non-denominational college was chartered. I thought that was kind of early. Yeah, Blunt College, which later became the University of Tennessee. I'm surprised by location as well.
Given today, yeah.
Given today's, right. 1846, Elias Howe received the patent for his sewing machine. He looked like quite a little serial killer there or something. If you're watching on YouTube his picture, doesn't he look rough?
Is that the style? 1846. Yeah, that is the style, isn't it? For
that
the hair
was a bit. He's like a man bun. He's got a man bun on.
Beard and everything. My God, he's got not bad hair, right? Yeah.
1897, British police arrested George Smith for drunken driving. It was the very first DUI.
In that rig?
In that rig, he drove his cab into a building, and then they ticketed him. Typical Brits. They ticketed him for driving his cab into the building. He was drunk.
I'm sorry. It almost looks like a Charlie Chaplin setup. Like the crash is going to happen in a mile an hour. Tick, 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 boom.
Poor George. 1913, the Lincoln Highway opened. It was the very first paved coast-to-coast highway in the U.S. We should have driven this. We've done Route 66. We need to do this route now.
Which was this, Tim? What was the...
So this is the Lincoln Highway. So it ran coast-to-coast from Times Square, New York City, to right before Lincoln Park in San Francisco.
What's it called here on the East Coast now?
So it originally ran through 14 different states, over 5,800 miles. It gradually has been replaced with numbered designations after the establishment of the numbered highway system. So today it'd be Interstate 80 from New York City to San Francisco. It was the old Lincoln Highway.
Got it. Okay.
And it would pass through over 700 cities and towns. And
Now, you know who's responsible for the highway system.
Hitler?
Well, we got the idea from him when the American troops were over in Germany. Everybody, all the
Eisenhower. Wasn't it?
Eisenhower. Yeah. He was amazed at how efficiently they could move things.
Well, and I always tell this to people, and they think I'm crazy. Around a lot of our airports, there's also very straight, wide highways. Think of the
emergency landing. Yeah.
Emergency landing, or if you needed to move military in quick, you could use the roads as runways. 1921, the Autobahn in Germany opened in Berlin. I would always love to go there and drive on it. I've never driven on it. Have you?
No, and
speed limit.
Hasn't Tim M been on the and I think that I heard him say once that the beauty of the Autobahn is when you're in a really well-engineered car that can handle the road beautifully, and you're moving at 100 some miles an hour, and it doesn't even...
I don't think I would be stupid.
No.
But I would like to go. I think it would be fun to experience. So that's on my bucket list, to go on the Autobahn. That's why I put it in there. 1948, Mildred Gillers, or Axis Sally, was indicted for treason in Washington, D.C. She was a Nazi radio propagandist during World War II.
She was friends with Tokyo Rose, right?
Well, I was going to say, is it too soon to do a sitcom with Tokyo Rose and Axis Sally? Maybe we could do a little
They're like the Odd Couple, the new Odd Couple.
Axis Sally and Tokyo Rose. Brought to you by the Focus Group.
Who dates who? I wonder who's... Yeah, they could be like the new Pigeon Sisters from the Odd Couple.
Do you think that could be a funny show? Maybe you could work on that with animation.
Yeah, I think this could be live. Who would you cast as Axis Sally?
Axis Sally. I think Tokyo Rose would be Margaret Cho.
Margaret Cho would be hilarious as Tokyo. Yeah, that
Axis Sally. I don't know.
You have to think about that one. Actually, you'd have to do
Who's the one from? I'm forgetting her name. The married seal that's on Project Runway. Heidi Klum.
As Axis Sally.
I don't know.
Tim Gunn as Tokyo Rose. Yeah.
1963, 20 black students entered public schools in Alabama to end the standoff between federal authorities and Governor George Wallace of Alabama. You know, it's odd. That was just a little over 50 years ago. It just doesn't seem possible.
But it is.
Not a good time in our history. 1998, I don't know how I would react if I was in the cabinet. So Clinton decided to meet with the members of his cabinet in 1998 to apologize and ask forgiveness, and promised to improve himself as a person in the wake of the scandal involving Monica Lewinsky. So he apologized to the cabinet. I don't know how.
All right, for starters, I remember when the vote was done and they didn't impeach.
Right.
But I remember a lot of smart people saying, so this is the height of the Republican hatred for the Democratic president, because all that shenanigans was going on in the White House long before Bill took office, right?
I have a friend of mine that had a shop named Nantucket. He said, I've done every mistress's hair since the Kennedy administration.
There's rumor that the first Bush had a mistress.
Yes.
We all know about Kennedy's peccadillos, right? Jackie O knew about him. Yeah. No one, anyway.
Roosevelt.
Yes, the diminishment of the office down to like the gutter. It's just so strange.
And in 2002, I have a hard-on for this country. I don't know, Switzerland.
Yeah, you don't.
There's a lapdog of Europe.
Yeah,
the lapdog of Europe.
Put that in the PowerPoint. I'm like, the lapdog of Europe.
Think of this: 2002, they became the 190th member of the UN. What were you waiting for?
2002.
2002, they became the 190th member of the UN. I mentioned that to somebody. They said, Switzerland's just essentially a safe deposit box for the World Bank and global finance, and so it really just is the world's place for money, and so it's protected.
Privacy.
Right, so it's just that little. Maybe we should move to Switzerland.
I'm dying to go.
How do you wait to 2002 to join the UN and you're Switzerland?
Well,
you don't need a military. You're protected by all of Europe.
They might be smarter than you think. They might have looked at the whole thing and said, boy, this UN doesn't really do much, but it costs us money. What do we get out of it? We get a lot of yap, 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 yap.
But it's good if you're located there, right? It would be like the state of Iowa saying we don't need to supply any troops or anything for the military because we're surrounded. Well, by the time they get to us, we'll be fine.
You're right about that. Yeah.
I think you have to play your part. Instead of buying 747s,
You know, we need
around.
a sound effect of a millstone spinning and an axe going zzz, like, and the sparks coming off as you
I've been
sharpen that axe.
picking on Switzerland for a long time.
with
So all our
Switzerland.
Swiss friends, you make good chalk and you got nice watches, but step it up. So what happened in history this week?
well.
September 10th.
The first death by killer bee. Remember the killer bees?
Yeah.
So they're the Africanized killer bee, and this is actually kind of gruesome. In 1999, the 83-year-old man was stung by a swarm of bees, and fatally killed in California.
What are Africanized bees mean?
That's the part that it's a breed of bee, like they've been crossbred or something with a different strain. His name was Virgil Foster. He was a beekeeper. He was mowing his lawn in Los Angeles and was stung at least 50 times by the highly aggressive bees, receiving a high dose of toxins, never made it past the paramedics in the hospital. Well, he was kept alive on a respirator, but by the time they got to him and put him on the respirator, they're like, this is not good. But his 3 beehives that he had maintained had been taken over by this strain of bee. So they come in and they seem friendly in bee land, and then they're like, take over, and they...
Russian bees.
Swiss bees. Oh, no, the Swiss would never have bees like this, right?
Russian bees.
On September 12th in 1992, Mae Jemison was the first African-American woman to go into space aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour, which I think is kind
Where'd she go?
She went to orbit.
Did they go to the space station or?
No.
Just flew around.
If this was in 92, yeah, she was in the orbiter, so they were just doing experiments in the shuttle. This one I was interested by. September 14th, the first lighthouse in the United States was lit, and it was in 1716. It was called the Boston Light. It was located on Little Brewster Island.
Yeah.
Off
the Cape, right?
Yeah, to mark the entrance to the Boston Harbor. It has guided ships since. It's a very dangerous part of the entrance to the harbor there. It was destroyed by the British in 1776, was rebuilt and renamed and relit in 1783 by none other than Governor John Hancock, which I thought was kind of cool, right?
Oh.
And this last bit is...
My grandfather tended a lighthouse in Nova Scotia.
Really?
An advocate, yeah, growing up.
There was a whole... I mean, there are people that lived solitary.
Yeah, he was out there all winter with
all
his
the
dog.
time. That's it.
Somebody would
Get
bring
all their
him food
supplies.
once a month.
And this last one is a little Connecticut one for us. From Stratford, Connecticut, in 1939, Igor Sikorsky demonstrated the first successful practical helicopter, the VS-300. It looks like a contraption I would never want to fly in. Right? Look at that thing.
I thought that was one of those popular science things that put a lawnmower engine on your go-kart and fly it.
I forget what you called it on the show run for John. I think it was like Man with Machine or something. I just had to laugh when I looked at what you wrote down for the slide description. Flying machine or like Crazy Old Man or something. Yeah, but that's Igor Sikorsky. And Sikorsky Aircraft is still in Stratford, Connecticut.
They're not leaving it like GE's moved out of Connecticut to Boston.
Connecticut is
struggling.
Yeah, not a cheap place to do business, right?
Got a governor who runs his mouth and doesn't do anything.
He should move to Switzerland, right?
I'm telling you, you got to get things in order.
So there you go. That was the Week in Science. How about birthdays?
Birthdays. We're the only show in the universe that does business birthdays. There's 2 of them this week. September 11th, which would be Sunday, Daniel Leopold Wildenstein, I think is how you say it. Wildenstein.
That sounds right.
Wildenstein. So
Oh, yeah.
He's a renowned art dealer, historian, and leading owner of thoroughbred racehorses. He was the 3rd member of the family to preside over the Wildenstein Company, which was one of the most successful and influential art dealerships of the 20th century. He was described as the richest and most powerful art dealer on earth. There was also a bit of controversy because the family apparently worked with the Nazis, which was that movie that just came out based upon the book The Lost Museum, The Nazi Conspiracy to Steal the World's Greatest Works of Art. And there was actually a lawsuit against the author, Hector Feliciano, and they lost. And then there was another lawsuit for defamation, and they lost. So essentially they're saying that they did collude with the Nazis. And
for the Nazis to understand what they were looting from museums, they needed experts like that, or the people in his family.
And then I posted the picture of the babe next to him, Jocelyn. She's always posted it. She's always in a New York City social circle.
The cat lady.
The cat lady. She's got a lot of plastic surgery. That's his daughter-in-law.
Oof.
That's his son's wife. See if she can come.
I'm gonna
see if she can come on.
I know it's not nice for me to say this, but I look at that picture of her, and I don't care what my orientation is. I just can't imagine that in the bedroom. You
don't want to.
No, I mean, look at that.
Have her run around the block a couple times, sit in your face. Also celebrating a birthday today is Thomas Usher. Not today, September 11th, which would be Sunday. American business executive that served as the president and chief operations officer and CEO of U.S. Steel. He was also chairman of the board and director of Marathon Oil, which was a part of the U.S. Steel conglomerate. He was with the company when they changed their name from U.S. Steel to USX. I worked for LTV Steel, which was the second largest producer. U.S. Steel was the largest producer. And I remember the struggle. The one interesting thing about U.S. Steel, they were smart in that they became a international company by buying up some of the Eastern European steelmakers and became an international company.
Right?
Yeah, right, based in Pittsburgh. And so there was a horrible time. Steel from Asia and Eastern Europe was really affecting the U.S. industry in the 80s. And so he's really, 80s and 90s, he's really credited with turning around U.S. Steel, which changed their name back in 2004 to U.S. Steel from USX. But so Thomas Usher, they said he had great labor relations and was actually a great leader at a very tough time. So he's 74 on Sunday.
There's a business leader we don't mind doing a birthday for. A couple weeks ago, you did one for the Exxon.
Exxon guy, yeah.
We don't like Exxon.
I think this guy went to Pitt too. He went to University of Pittsburgh, your old hometown. So those are our business birthdays today.
Very good. All right, it's the Focus Group. I'm John Nash, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Tim Bennett. We're going to take a very quick break, and when we come back,
I don't even know if you could say it.
A little surprise shop talk. So stay tuned.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
And in business a week, I got more money than I know what to do with.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
Herrera Rocher. He is doing well.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, John Nash. We're all business except when we're not. Be sure to check us out at focusgroupradio.com. And if you get a chance, head over to any of our social media platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Are we Instagramming? Focus Group Radio. We got to start putting pictures up.
Yeah, that Instagram thing. You know, if I started populating it with kitties and flowers, I mean, it seems to me like I want to put a meaningful picture up, but
that's tough.
Lately, I scroll through and I'm like, really?
Most things, and I think our biggest play is on our Facebook page, which is Focus Group Radio. And go to the official one. There's two of them that duel with each other, but we maintain both. But
Focus Group
the
Radio.
One.
Yeah.
This article John found, and
thank you.
No, it would have been. I laughed at it. So it would have been a Tim's list on our old platform. We would have used this as Tim's list, and essentially, right, a top 10 list. If you've been laying awake at night, wondering. There's the headline is the world penis map has been invented, and it shows how the average manhood measures up around the world. And so if you're laying in bed at night thinking to yourself, geez, I wonder who has the biggest penises or doesn't use tampons from our earlier segment. Good thing we're a guestless show today.
We have Johnson & Johnson on.
Johnson & Johnson should, right there, and Viagra. We could have a whole group of sponsors. But they so they went through, and I guess they looked at over.
It came from the UK. They're always so cheeky.
Oh, it did?
This came from the UK.
3.4, is that right, billion men?
3,400,000,000 adult males.
Right. And they did a measurement, or asked them to measure and came up with a list of who had the largest manhood and who may have been lacking.
And it's
in
interactive.
Case you were wondering.
So just so you know, before I came into the studio, I did the interactivity and I checked out a couple things.
How the U.S. do? Did you look?
The U.S. is yellow, and it's all in centimeters. I had to actually convert this.
We're in the middle.
We are averaging 5.07 inches to 5.7 inches.
Correct?
Yeah, that's the average male penis size
That's not
in
good,
the United States. We're edged out a little bit by the UK. The UK starts at like 5.2 to 5.8 or something. But yeah, and so the map shows, in this case, the red zone. Those
biggest penis.
Those are the winners. Yeah, the red zone.
So it's Africa essentially, which I laughed because that's always a stereotype. People say, "Oh, you shouldn't stereotype," but as Archie Bunker says, stereotypes happen for a reason.
If you were an old All in the Family fan, yeah.
So the biggest penises are in Africa.
So it's the top 10,
right? And then, but they said Australia's not far behind. But they didn't make the top 10, did they? Who was?
No, Australia's orange, so they're right up there with the African countries.
But they didn't make the top 10. Who was the biggest
top
one?
10? Congo, average size is 7.1. Ecuador 7. Ghana 6.8. Venezuela 6.7. Cameroon 6.6. Colombia 6.6. Lebanon 6.6. Jamaica 6.4. Panama 6.4, and then I've never heard of this.
Burkina Faso.
Where is Burkina Faso?
It's down in Africa.
Okay, well they were at 6.3, so they were beaten by the Congo.
The bottom 10.
But that's exactly how the bottom 10.
The bottom 10. What do you mean that's exactly?
If we were LGBT, we'd be like, well, you know.
The bottom 10 are I call these button dicks, but the smallest one is Thailand at 3.7 inches. Erect.
Yeah.
Like a cornichon. Then followed by Nepal, North Korea. How'd they get that measurement out?
Yeah, well, I was going to say.
Must have just been Kim Jong-un's.
North Korea should have been feeding them bad data.
Right.
That would have been
8.3.
Thrown off the bell curve, right?
Yeah. Apparently don't go to Asia, though, because Thailand, Nepal, North Korea, Cambodia at 4, Sri Lanka, South Korea at 4.3, Pakistan, I was surprised about 4.4. Hong Kong 4.4, Bangladesh 4.4, and Singapore 4.5.
Climbing up the ladder, Singapore 4.5.
So yeah, that's the smaller one. So the United States must be in the middle. I thought the sizes were kind of small overall, though.
Really?
Well, an erection of
No. See, this is what I the reason I thought this was amusing was medical.
Have you seen a 3.7-inch penis? Like that.
I don't know. I guess maybe no.
Oh, we all have.
Oh my God!
I was,
the average. I remember learning in school about this. Like the average the average male. They used to peg it at like 5.4 or something as the average, 5.2, 5.4, whatever. So I love, and for you and I in the gay world. It's gay men are obsessed with this. So I've always laughed at when you see someone say 8, 7, you're like, really? Okay, so science, we know for a fact that.
I've seen a lot of penises only because of the frat house and for rowing. And so if you would row at a big regatta, you would see hundreds of men nude. I was worried because I thought to myself after I read this, I'm like, I wonder if they've done a map. Maybe we should commission a study of the U.S. and the states.
Oh.
And I was trying to think of all the states I've lived in and all the places I've been who I think might have had the largest manhood. You want to guess? You know where I've lived, different states. By far.
Are you going to say out west?
Midwest.
Minneapolis?
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. And close with Pennsylvania. And I'm thinking it might be the Scandinavian, Norwegian, Swedish, Dutch, German influence. You're quiet.
Well, I'm puzzling over that one because just as you said that, I was like, wait a minute, that's so. If you think that that's the stock, right? That they're coming from those countries originally, right?
So I was wondering how that map that you had the.
I floated over a bunch of. I did a bunch of
Germans or
countries. I looked at Germany. I looked at, and you could go state by state, and it does vary a little bit. But America as a whole, those are the numbers that we have.
But guys look, straight or gay, they'll look to see who's got what. You learn that.
Oh, I've had friends at the gym tell me the same thing.
Yeah. So you know
straight
what?
or gay,
Yeah, you
like
know
it.
what's
It's
what.
it's this pecking order.
Yeah. So that's why I'm wondering. So I was trying to think myself. Well, I wonder if I was to think of a place that I've lived where I remember seeing some well-endowed people, more so than others. But an interesting map. Can we post that or not?
We should link it.
We'll link it on the Facebook page.
Because then you could do the interactivity. But when I was reading this article, I was remembering all the little euphemisms that people have for this.
Like what?
It's not the size of the wand, but the magic in it, right? It's not there's all these sayings that people have to like kind of.
Interestingly, I don't know if you clicked on this. So within the article, there was it says, why do classical statues have such small penises?
And they showed a picture of David.
Did you read the story?
I did, yeah.
So the reason being, they said, was that today, big penises are seen as valuable and manly. Back then, most evidence points out the fact that small penises were considered better than big ones, and large penises were associated with foolishness, lust, and ugliness. And she points out that many statues, Greek statues, particularly with large penises, were usually an animal-like or foolish, lustful men, whereas the other more classical or historical types of statues were smaller. So they said in that case, bigger isn't always better, folks. But so somebody asked that question. I wondered that about David, too.
Yeah.
I thought that David should be,
Well, the statue's enormous to begin with, right? It's like
17 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
You'd think
But no, that was all very proportioned and very classical. But I did read that. I clicked through that and I thought, yeah. And it reminded me also of how norms have changed a great deal. So back in the 1700s, even into the 1800s, the early 1800s, you were considered a person of leisure and wealth the whiter your skin was, or if you weren't tan, let's just put it that way. Think of how it's flipped now, and how we held up people who have like a perfect tan, or they have all that time to spend in the sun, and now those are the people that are
Yeah.
So if you're tan, you're like well off. It's just crazy little things like that.
That was the famous story with Grace Kelly's father, who was the rower. They didn't feel he won the world championships, and they said it was unfair because it was a bricklayer and his hands were calloused, and most of the people that rode were aristocrats and their hands would get blistered and hurt. So they said he had an unfair advantage by being a
because he had
laborer.
calloused by being a laborer. Oh my God!
So, yeah, so that's how things change. Yeah.
So there you go. That was the. I thought that was a funny.
So you're going to change your vacation destination trip, John? You're going to head to the Congo?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. A lot of the countries they name here in Africa, you don't want to go to.
Well, I was wondering how they got the measurement.
Did they say?
Do you take the Congo phone book and start dialing?
They don't say how they got the data, did they?
It's the Brits. They've probably been collecting it for years. Oh well.
All right, step in here for
we're gonna do a
step in for your immunization shot and drop your pants. What do the two have to do with each other? We're going to immunize you and we're going to measure at the same time.
I think the focus group should commission a study for U.S. states, see which U.S. states have the biggest endowment.
Okay, what was that Facebook comment you read to me recently? Some guy puts on the
focus group is anything but focused.
If it was anything, he doesn't get the show.
That's the point.
He doesn't get the show. If he wants me to hear like a stock pick, let's do a stock pick.
Go talk to Kramer.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not good. The business of knowing details. That's our business. And that's a detail you want to know.
Give that to the IGLTA. Maybe they can do their next conference
in the Congo.
Or Burkina Faso or something.
And it's going to be sold out then, especially when you let the queens know what's going on. All right. That's the show, folks. John Nash with Tim Bennett. It's the Focus Group. We want to thank everybody for joining us and for making time out of your day to learn these amazing facts that we dig very hard to find. Thank you to John and Garrett in the booth. And a big thank you to Volkswagen of America for being with us for almost 7 years now.
That's right. We're heading out west to go drive.
We are soon going to be taking one of their new vehicles, the Golf All-Track Wagon, on a ride and drive, which is a press event, which is going to be really cool. And then they're giving us that same car, and we're driving through the Northwest down to Denver and the Rockies, and we have a lot of fun things planned. So stay tuned for all that. And there may be some Wednesday specials, so also look for that. But again, have a great week, and thanks for joining us.
Join the focus group on all forms of social media. It's easy. And like good marketers, our branding is uniform across all platforms. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope at Focus Group Radio. Again, join the conversation across all of our social media platforms at Focus Group Radio.